Hi everyone and welcome to the SASE Show, the industry's first talk show focused exclusively on SASE. I'm your host Sid, and with me today is a man who needs no introduction, Amit Singh, Chief Business Officer at Palo Alto Networks. Amit, welcome to the SASE Show.
Sid, it's great to be here.
Thanks for making the time. I just wanted to ask you, before we get started into talking about SASE and everything, can you tell the audience a little bit about your background and how you bring your varied leadership experiences to bear in terms of the big shifts in the cybersecurity industry that we're seeing today?
Sure. Look, my most relevant experience before Palo Alto Networks was at Google as a founder of Google Cloud, and saw what scale and speed can do, and have really tried to bring cloud thinking, scale, automation, and machine learning to our product portfolio. And if you notice kind of the trends that are going on in our industry, it's all around speed of attacks, sophistication and complexity of attacks, and frankly, lack of people on our side as defenders being able to combat the bad guys. And that's really what I see, Sid, as some of the values that our company and many others, frankly, bring to this next generation of cybersecurity.
Interesting. So, in terms of the transformation, do you feel like with this whole trend of SASE, right, it's a pretty big deal. Do you feel like we're at a generational shift right now with where we are, and do you think things are about to really take off in terms of leveraging these same trends of machine learning and all of these things to make security turbocharged?
Look, I think a couple of things that I think it has already taken off.
Yeah.
It's the movement of workloads, including some of the most in need of security data, customer data, employee data, et cetera. That data moving to the cloud, as well as hybrid work, people working from home, has essentially called into question, location as the way to securing workloads or securing data. There is no location. The perimeter has gone away. People are working everywhere, apps everywhere, and the users are everywhere. So then building an architecture around bringing traffic to a data center, applying security policy, and then going back out to the cloud, et cetera, is not necessarily the most efficient, doesn't have the great user experience, and is not always scalable because the technology of VPN was built in a different era. So a new architecture of SASE is really what clients are looking at, to basically have users secured wherever they are, whichever apps they use, with high speed and precision, with security always on. And that, frankly, is something every company that I'm talking to has a zero trust initiative. SASE, zero trust are intermingled in people's minds. It's not the same thing, but there's a lot of common components. Yeah. And yes, using hyperscale cloud as a platform and the machine learning attributes that it brings allows products to be much more effective in that area.
Right. So when you talk to customers about these shifts and the way we are using hyperscalers and all this new architectural changes to deliver security and user experience in a different way, are there any particularly interesting stories or conversations that you've had with CISOs or CIOs that made you go like, oh wow, that's interesting?
Wow, there's so many. I'll tell you one. Right when the pandemic struck and then the U.S. shut down, we had deployed, our SASE solution, just like others, at many companies. And then one such company that is a global services company that has 350,000 employees all over the world needed to go from 20,000 employees using the product to everyone using the product because they want to keep their clients' data secure. And they wanted to do it within a weekend.
Yeah.
So I was sweating bullets. I'm like, man, I know we built this on this scale and the user experience, but it didn't. There were no issues. We smooth sailing, and frankly, that gave us confidence that we have resiliency and built to scale. But I have clients every day here coming in for architecture discussions. Is what's the right thing to do, and all of them are actually using the time, Sid, to rethink the security stack and consolidate the platforms. Because over time, people have deployed different things for VPN, different thing for internet access, web secure gateway, for DLP, and SASE brings all these things together. So a lot of conversations going about around platform consolidation.
Right. And when, like, this is a good point on architecture, right? Because if you look at the market out there, because SASE is a big deal and the market is growing at 3x the times of other cybersecurity markets, all of a sudden, every security vendor is a SASE vendor. So from a C-level executive's perspective, I think it becomes harder for them to try and filter out and differentiate between all the messaging that's coming out. So would you say that architectural conversations is where the differences lie, and that's where the focus should be initially as an organization is looking at SASE, because the architecture you choose kind of sets you up for the next 3 to 5 years, right?
Absolutely,
Is that what I'm
longer
hearing?
really.
Yeah.
Great question. Look, zero trust or SASE, a lot of people call things that. We've come up with the principles called Zero Trust 2.0,
Yep.
which defines, what we believe to be principles that anybody that builds products in this space
Yep.
conforms to.
Yep.
For example, we believe that you cannot have zero trust without continuous security monitoring in line with traffic.
Yep.
That's our belief.
Yeah.
Others may have a product, but if they don't conform to that, we believe that's not advanced zero trust. We believe that you should be able to set a single policy for all your traffic, for all your users, wherever the data or the users are, and it should just be applied simply, versus going and applying it in 3, 4, 5 different places. So, folks that are listening, really highly encourage them to think through what are the principles they believe in. Take a look at ours. They are as good a starting point as any, and then try and map their approach and architecture to then looking at solutions.
Yeah, because I think what we're trying to do is ultimately help organizations and ourselves be secure. And from an attacker standpoint, they're going to want to go after the crown jewels, which is, for example, the private applications or the internal applications. And if your architecture doesn't allow you to, for example, inspect traffic to private applications for security threats, then that's the architecture selection itself is leaving an inherent hole in your entire SASE strategy. So you're only protecting 75% of your stuff. And do you think the attacker is going to go after the 75% or the 25% that's kind of left unprotected?
The attackers
right?
are pretty sophisticated.
Yeah.
They're, if you look at anything like SolarWinds or whatever, they were able to be very patient and sophisticated. It was a very long-range attack. By the way, we are one of the few in the world of cybersecurity that caught it and blocked it. And we did it because of our investment in machine learning. And you'll see that these folks will very quickly go towards where the crown jewels are, like you said. That's usually private applications, customer data, health data, employee data. And it's our job as an industry to do a good enough job to ward these very sophisticated, in some case, nation-state actors.
Yeah, true. And I think when it comes to scale, it's also about the security environment having the capabilities, but also being able to scale to protect your environments as your traffic goes up, as your cloud adoption increases, which again goes back to the decision, the architectural decision choice of choosing whether you want an architecture that is based in hyperscaler environments versus being in co-location data centers.
Right.
I mean, you can argue the merits and demerits of each, right? But if you think about supply chain shortages, if you think about scalability requirements, am I hearing from you that the cloud native stack is actually more suited for?
Actually, that's a great question, and not, I have a bias towards cloud native stack.
So do I.
But the reason for that is, for example, we've architected our technology where it fails over within zones and it fails over within clouds, outside of clouds. So from GCP to AWS, and within GCP within zones, and within AWS within zones. So we're able to guarantee 4 nines SLA, and frankly, we've been able to maintain that because of what hyperscale and POPs around the world that allow us to get a very quick hop to where the user might be working from home or a branch office or whatever. And that infrastructure is uniquely, in my view, able to deliver cybersecurity closest to the user in line at scale for the kind of traffic that most people are now using. Collaboration traffic, video traffic, voice traffic, data traffic, which is just going to go up. But my suggestion for anybody is look at that architecture, take it through the paces, test it out, because we're seeing a fair amount of success in this space.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's good advice. And it's about evaluating it objectively for its merits, not just because you're saying it or I'm saying it,
course,
right?
yeah.
So what would be your one piece of advice? And these kind of questions always stump me, but I know you're much better at this than I am. What would be your one piece of advice to a CISO or a CIO who's kind of interested in SASE and they want to start doing this in their organization?
I think first, I would say just think through what architecture you're trying to deploy and why. What are the principles that you'd like to adopt? What is the time frame that you want to adopt all of this? This is not revolution. You have to somehow consolidate these things and deploy them over a period of time. And then I would say, go through, take the vendors through the paces, but start at the top. I mean, I would welcome you to come here and start at the top and get a vision for why we made the technology and design choices we did, and our competitors as well. They're all good at what they do. And then decide from there on, like, what paces do you want to take everybody in? What kind of tests do you want to conduct that makes sense for your organization?
Good advice. I think we've covered a lot of good ground on SASE, and I hope the audience, and I'm sure the audience has found it useful, as have I. Before I let you go, I wanted to ask you a non-SASE question.
Sure.
As part of this show, we're putting together this list of movies that all our panelists and interviewees like. So what's your favorite movie of all time?
Star Wars.
Star
Easy.
Wars, all of them?
Yes,
okay.
Exactly.
And why?
Just at a time when I was younger and it was futuristic, it was fun, and it was just like a great movie. The hero, the villain, Darth. I mean, who doesn't love Darth Vader?
Okay, the good versus evil, right?
Exactly.
Kind of analogous to what we're doing in the cybersecurity industry as well.
Yeah.
Amit, this was an excellent conversation. I learned a lot. Thank you so much for spending the time with us.
Wonderful.
And to all of those of you that are listening, I'm sure you found it valuable. Please continue to stay engaged with us. Put your feedback in the comment section. And if you would like to continue the conversation with us, there's a QR code that's going to flash up on your screen right now. So please scan that, and there'll be opportunities for us to engage in a more one-on-one or an intimate setting. So thanks again for your time. And this was Sid with the SASE Show with Amit Singh.